Friends, NBC News has a story out today. Former Fauci advisor pleads guilty to conspiring to conceal COVID 19 records. Hallelujah. David Morin's longtime senior advisor to the one and only Dr. Anthony Fauci over at NIAID walks into federal court in Greenbelt, Maryland, and cops to conspiracy. He admits he and his buddies worked to hide federal records about research grants, back coronaviruses, and the whole Wuhan connection. Personal Gmail accounts, talk of making emails disappear, helping restore funding for EcoHealth Alliance after the NIH pulled the plug. Because, allegations that the virus might have come out of a lab in China were just too inconvenient. Now, let's pause right there. This is the same crowd that spent years calling the lab leak theory a conspiracy theory, a racist distraction, something only the unwashed deplorables and Trump supporters would dare whisper. Remember when they all locked arms and declared it was definitely the wet market, natural origin, case closed, and anyone who asked questions was a dangerous misinformation spreader who needed to be censored, deplatformed, or worse. Fauci himself waved it away. The media ran cover. Big tech slammed the gates. And here we have one of Fauci's own people admitting he deliberately moved sensitive discussions off government servers so the public and those pesky FOIA requests couldn't see them. He was coordinating with people outside government to protect the funding and push back against the lab leak narrative. 2 bottles of wine and a promised Michelin star meal as gratuities. Classy, huh? Real public servant stuff. This is exactly what many of us said was happening while the pandemic was raging and the experts were busy shutting down schools, businesses, and free speech. They weren't just wrong. Some of them were actively working to keep the American people in the dark about the origins of a virus that killed hundreds of thousands and upended the country. And now, years later, after the damage is done, after the careers and lives ruined for asking questions, one of them finally has to stand in court and say, yeah, I conspired to conceal the records. Notice how carefully the stories are written. Fauci himself is not accused of wrongdoing in this particular case. Of course not. The emperor remains above it all. But Morens was feeding information to senior NIAID official one. That's Fauci in the court documents and working to counter the lab leak idea. Coincidence? I'm sure, but just good science being practiced in the shadows with private email. This is why trust in the institutions collapsed. This is why so many people tuned out the experts and the legacy media. When the people who demand you follow the science are busy deleting emails and using Gmail to hide the science, you've got a problem. The same people who lectured us about transparency and trust in government were running their own little shell game. Morens is 78, faces up to 5 years, sentencing in November. Whether he does any real time or gets the usual soft landing remains to be seen. But the plea itself is the story. It's an admission that the machinery was working overtime to shape the narrative and protect the funding pipeline that tied American taxpayers to research in Wuhan. We told you years ago the lab leak possibility was serious and deserved investigation, not ridicule. Somehow, anyone with a healthy skepticism of government knew it. The mainstreams and the credentialed class mocked it. Now, the court record is catching up. Don't let the memory hold this one, folks. This is what happens when ideology and self preservation trump truth. The American people deserve better. Never forget what they did. This is where we are today in America. We'll be back, and we hope you will too.